Hello and welcome to the LNN weekly recap this Sunday evening, bringing you the latest foreign developments alongside key updates from across the nation. Now, to our most developing story this evening, a disease now designated CPVH1 by the Centre for Disease Containment has been confirmed to have infected 176 toads in the countryside town of Lowmore. There have been 23 reported deaths in total, giving CPVH1 an overall fatality rate of 13%. However, that figure does vary depending on the individual. For a healthy, middle-aged person, the fatality rate is estimated to be around 3%. The disease appears to affect elderly toads the most, and it is within that age group that the 13% fatality rate applies. It's also important to note that at this time, not a single case has been reported outside of Lowmore. CDP officials currently have the entire town surrounded, and infected individuals remain under lockdown. We have some breaking news coming in. As of moments ago, CPVH was officially been classified by the CDP. The classification issued the lowest level available, known as a local outbreak. While it might sound routine, only around 0.2% of all viral outbreaks receive any classification at all. Because of this classification, I am now obliged to inform you of what to do in the unlikely event that CPVH1 reaches your city. First, if you see a report claiming that disease has spread to your area, you are urged to verify the source. If no established news outlets have covered the report, and especially if the information comes from an online channel alone, it is likely to be fake. There's one exception to this rule: the emergency alert system. If any broadcast is interrupted by the emergency alert system, you should pay the utmost attention to the message and trust all information provided by the system is accurate. Secondly, if a report is confirmed, you are advised to avoid large gatherings of crowded public spaces. This is not a lockdown yet. However, restrictions such as managed queues in supermarkets may need to be introduced if a credible report is sounded in your area. Our next developing story concerns a major escalation involving the war between Estonia and Castia, following what officials are now describing as a devastating impact on the former city of Waven. The incident is believed to have resulted from the deliberate sabotage from a dam upstream, leading to the controlled submersion of the city. International observers and legal analysts have widely described the act as a potential war crime, given both the scale of the destruction and civilian impact. The Grand Duke addressed the nation on Wednesday in an emergency statement regarding the incident. The quote from the address is as follows: "The calculated submersion of the historic metropolis of Waven via the sabotage of its dam is an atrocity that cannot be overlooked. This constitutes a supreme war crime, and Towchester, a bastion of international law, can no longer maintain its neutrality. I hereby formally declare that in concert with my strategic allies within the Triple Syndicate, we are imposing rigorous sanctions against the Estonian Federation. The systematic violations perpetrated by the Estonian regime will no longer be met with diplomatic silence, but with decisive geopolitical intervention." I'll let that sink in for a moment. For the first time in this nation's history, we're imposing a full ban on exports from the Triple Syndicate into Estonia in peacetime. I'll say that again for clarity. For the first time in this nation's history, in peacetime, all exports from the Triple Syndicate to Estonia have officially been suspended. In the days following the live address on Wednesday, many citizens expressed concern that our long-standing policy of neutrality may be shifting. With some fearing this could mark the beginning of a wider conflict in Estonia and Towchester. However, at this time, no war has been declared, and no direct military engagements or close military incidents have been reported between the two nations. Officials continued to emphasize that the situation remains under diplomatic control, though tensions are undeniably at the highest level in recent history. We now move on to our weekly security brief, where we'll cover notable military moves not previously reported or only briefly mentioned in this broadcast. We begin with a breakdown of the three-stage operation that led to the submersion of Waven. The first stage occurred approximately 195 kilometers from the city, where Estonian Special Forces successfully weakened the command structure of the Castilian garrison before advancing the following day. This initial phase resulted in 398 Estonian casualties and 313 Castilian casualties. The second stage, now being referred by analysts as the bloodbath of the Mehukala River, involved 400 Estonian troops ambushing approximately 600 Castilian soldiers during a river crossing. The engagement resulted in 282 Estonian casualties and the total loss of all 600 Castilian troops involved. Following the engagement of the Mehukala River, a Estonian B-52 strategic bomber deployed the specialized ordnance strike against the Waven Dam. The target was entirely destroyed, resulting in rapid flooding of the city and an as of yet unconfirmed number of civilian casualties. 2 days later, in the aftermath of the disaster, Estonian ground forces moved to occupy the city. However, Resistance remained significant, and the offensive failed to secure full control of the city. During the battle for Waven, 134 Castilian defenders were killed, alongside 204 Justonian invaders. In total, across the entire operation, 1,047 Castilian soldier casualties and an unconfirmed number of civilian casualties in Waven were recorded. On the Justonian side, personnel losses totaled 884. This marks the extended territorial gain achieved through that operation. However, military analysts caution that when viewed in the broader context of the campaign, this still remains a relatively limited strategic development. In other developments, Justonian forces launched an assault with Castilian defensive position earlier this week during heavy rainfall along the western sector of the front. The engagement resulted in 148 Castilian defenders killed and approximately 300 Justonian troops lost. Analysts suggest the operation significantly compromised with weather conditions, which severely restricted armoured deployment and forced reliance on infantry-based assault tactics, an approach Justonian forces are widely addressed to be less effective in using. In total, across the entire war so far, 2,094 Castilian soldiers have been killed, and on the Justonian side, 4,799. On the domestic front, the Royal Navy has prepared 15 destroyers going into the central and southern oceans to oversee the export ban on western goods of Justonia. If any ship is found to be violating the ban, they'll be guided back to a friendly port. However, the Royal Navy has made it explicitly clear that no ship will be sunk even if it ignores all warnings. A quote from the Chief Admiral Voss says, "Even if they are breaking our new sanctions, we must remember these captains are not trying to declare war on us or bomb our homes. They're simply doing their job, and for that they don't deserve death and destruction." With all those tense stories out the way, we're moving on to the 10th annual tennis tournament. As always, we'll go for the Urban Assembly Cup and the Divisional Grounds Cup. The first match of the Urban Assembly Cup this week was between Oakhaven and Lowfield, and after a 2-game match, Oakhaven won the match. Surprisingly, for the first half of the first game, it seemed like Lowfield was certainly going to win. However, in a jaw-dropping comeback, Oakhaven won the first and second matches, with Lowfield only scoring twice more in the entire match. The second match this week was between Ashbourne and Stonemouth, and after a 2-game match, Ashbourne won the match. The final match this week was between Whitecroft and Brightmere, and after a match of 3 games, Whitecroft won the match. Unfortunately for Brightmere, the match was almost a clean sweep. However, the players representing Brightmere took it very well and congratulated the Whitecroft players for their performance. The first match of the Divisional Grounds Cup this week was between Renford and Claymore. Now, you may remember that Claymore is currently experiencing a viral outbreak, and that's why the all-human team has swapped out of a Toad one. What's supposed to be a historic show of diversity in the stadium was ruined by CBVH1. However, the game still went on, and the all-Toad team of the Claymore went on to win the match in a clean 2 games. The match was not a clean sweep, with there being 3-round deuce in the second game. However, the cheers when Claymore won were as booming as you can imagine. The second match this week was between Highfield and Crowsdale, and after an intense back-and-forth match between the two, Highfield managed to win the match. The match of 3 games came down to a deuce in every single game. The longest deuce happened in the third game, and there was an impressive 7-round deuce. The final match this week of the Provisional Grounds Cup was between Longden and Redmoor. The match that lasted 2 games was almost a clean sweep by Longden, with some minor resistance from Redmoor. However, in the end, Longden won the match. Here are the tables for the Urban Assembly Cup and the Provisional Grounds Cup. Welcome back. Now, our first domestic story this Sunday evening concerns a change to the National Alert Infrastructure. The Emergency Broadcast System, EBS, was officially replaced by the EAS yesterday evening. At a first glance, some may view this as a downgrade to the simplified visuals and pixelated text format of the EAS. However, officials confirm the redesign prioritised the signal efficiency over presentation. By reducing bandwidth demand previously allocated to high-resolution transmissions, the system is now significantly more resilient to interference and override attempts. According to internal testing, the likelihood of a broadcast failure to transmit has been reduced from 5% to just 0.2%. Overall, authorities maintain that for its intended purpose, the emergency alert system represents a substantial improvement in reliability over the previous system. Our second domestic story is a successful aerospace mission earlier this week regarding Cranreach 1. Cranreach 1 launched on Tuesday and completed a successful landing on the western coast on Friday. While in orbit, the shuttle deployed the first of 15 modules intended for the construction of the Cranreach satellite. The satellite is expected to support microgravity experiments and long-range observation of Terra. Officials state that once fully operational, the system will place Towchester at the forefront of orbital observation and scientific utilization of space once again. Before we conclude this evening's broadcast, a number of public announcements. First, the Northern Highway Connector location and tow chest has been cleared and reopened. The border remains open to movements in both directions. Secondly, a checkpoint between Colchester and Corson has been temporarily closed for unspecified operational reasons. This refers specifically to the Iron Bridge checkpoint just south of the city. The closure has already been reflected in Civ map systems, and all civilian routes have been automatically rerouted. Finally, Chester Guide, a company specialising in heritage railway experience and modernised steam engines, has suspended its Midlands route. Representatives cited budget reallocation as the reason for the closure. However, the announcement was not preceded by a public notice, and many passengers and rail enthusiasts have expressed frustration online regarding the sudden decision. And that brings us to the end of tonight's broadcast. We hope you have a peaceful evening. This has been Steve with the LNN Weekly Recap. Good night.